Very good gamers, and welcome to one more adventure, as today comes the tier list of Genshin Impact pre-NATLAN. We're going to have one of the short videos that you like the most, that it's probably a movie, and that the editors are already watching me with it. Strange faces and editors are very much loved. A greeting to Tuma, Uriel and Edward, and in the comments a hug to the three, to Tuma, Uriel and Edward. Thank you for all the content and the work that they give you, so that you may have. And today, before NATLAN, and it's one of the videos you asked me the most, we're going to bring Genshin Impact's complete tier list. From left to right and from top to bottom is the importance currently with which there will be a better character of Genshin Impact, and there will be a worse character of Genshin Impact. As you can see, this tier is defined by tier alloy, and apart from all that, we will tell the characters 5 stars in a realistic potential, as the game has been 4 years with which both the characters share a weapon 4 stars and the characters themselves Cone or C2 with some weapon that has to be his 5 stars are valid to tell them, and I will tell you what. Level is the prime of each character. For example, Neuvillette does not need the C2, but Cone and its weapon is its prime, and is where it will be, or Yelan, Cone, and Aqua, or some other character like Raiden, who could be C2 plus 4 star gun catch and 4 characters. Stars will count the 4 stars chicks, because also after 4 years, if you focus on a particular character that you like a lot has incredible potentials, I would have liked to maybe also separate the tier list between carries and supports. Leave me comments if you want them to be, or make another tier list separated from carries and supports, but complete of all characters and in Genshin Impact. And now do leave a good ulti of bed, subscribe, support with all this, which is free, and subscribe to channel to have more visualization, to show more on YouTube, and for us to keep growing what we are growing. Thank community you. And let's go with Genshin Impact's full list. Well, I think to speed up there are things that you have clear from other videos, and that in general everyone already has accepted that it is that the must pull are therefore Najina and Kazuha. Could include Mr. Neuvillette and Aliquino here, who are the best carries of all Genshin Impact. And then in a tier a little further away from must pull would be around Yelan, Xianyun, in this order, and in my personal opinion I think Emily. But to be careful, we're going to put Emily around here. Other than all this on the alloy lot, there are things that we can already do. Put directly like Chi-Chi, as Xinyan will actually be Kachina and Kinish around, and I'll tell you where I think I'd put them like that. How quiet, but well, you know that all this can vary. I'm going to vary it along the tier with which it's not that initial is not that what I do in the end, because everything has its explanation, but there are very easy things to reduce and simplify now. The Traveler has Traveler Nemo, Geo has Traveler Dendro, Traveler Electro, Traveler Hydro, and we'll leave the Traveler Pyro soon though. All the travelers are terrible, with which the traveler who is here is going to be all the travelers who are terrible that I am going to Alloy and the traveling Noma. I'm going to tell her as a traveling Dendro who's going to be here, that's very interesting and very powerful as traveling Dendro, who more than Morzoma. I'm going to send you down here for his role of Crepita, but really is a little bit more or. Except something like that, they're gonna be there to see if I can quickly find some character who's in me. They just like Gary, because it's in me. I'm so sorry. It's interesting, but above, he's got Chlorines, got Raiden's, got Xenos, got all the carries Electro and General Candace. I don't know if in me or in tier alloy to see Candace would save the tier alloy, because it has a utility as like Carry goes down there, and it's powerful. I think it's kind of good. And Yunjin worse than Kanda is what happens then now in Key. NATLAN comes out of the forge I brought you in another video, or I'll bring you in another gun video from the NATLAN forge, and she has a little bufo because they pull out a defense spear, but that's another story. Chongyun also goes this way, though good Chongyun is. Candace could rescue because Chongyun has the inverse melts that Ningguang doesn't do badly. If I'm going to treat him around, as I already say they can fly, I'm going to do a tier A of the dedicated supports, because more or less the function of a all is to enable a computer, and only worked 6 ago, with which if I locate them, dedicated supports as they fall by. I'm missing Guru here, that I'm not seeing him that early, but I'll find safe, and I think the characters I can fly. So say, I think they'd be around by now. Maybe a Kishe around here in AA. I don't know if I'm gonna put it underneath brackets. Dedicated because today of the dedicated supports to whoever likes Xiao or who likes it. Xing being is more that now much as well feminine in Kirara. Or I don't understand it, and Kirara may be down for the aggregate that it can work, and I think I'm missing Guru is not boys here. Guru dedicated supports worth more or less something like that could be started. And now we're going with the rest of the things that, as you see, there's not much mystery either. It's worth characters that could literally be must-pull being 4 stars as the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, Bennett, Xiangling, Xingqiu, and Kuki. This is the most important thing of all. Genshin Impact, if you have this tier of characters that is here in this order, I would dare to say literally an Alakino being. Kala would put a little below in the same order, maybe above, and in this same order, I would say you have all Genshin Impact solved. All the rest is very interesting now. I would put Bennett above all this because it would possibly put Xiangling above Yelan. Because it wouldn't put Xingqiu above it, wouldn't put the cookie above it because the cookie enables you here because the cookie could be. This way perfectly to this day Yelan is lower because there is Furina. If there was no Furina would not be much more always. I told you that between Furina and Yelan the only difference is that Yelan can be played in National Raider. Better than the rest of things, Furina is a lot than it is, so I think it would be something like that. Maybe even to put Yelan here in tier got upstairs. That's not how we started this tier. It's the most important thing. The trio at the beginning of the video we follow gaming goes straight to God over here. Gaming Shakes enables you the 4th best Genshin team. Impact, and in circumstances the 3rd best team in all Genshin Impact, being a 4 stars by the value of being 4 stars. I would even raise them but for the theme of being carry. If you notice here are Arakino and Uvilette, and Arakino already with Constellations and 5-star gun outgrows gaming, so it doesn't have much more mysteries to history. Sucrose going this way to got too powerful, which is we're going to put carry of the most powerful Jutao game with a double Bufo year inflicted by Furina, C2 plus Yelan Cone, and with Xianyan Tone. CU. Yudao has also become again one of the best carry of the game as Jesus Christ in the land Jutao right now with Yudro next to Xianyan, making the combo of 2 normal charged high descending and being able to reach 6-7 repetitions of this. Rotation Damajet is a nonsense. What else Sino already know here, the best character of the game, not Lysino here. In that I don't know if it's not support, but well, here we'll see Al-Haytham. The thing is that now it comes to Kinich we're going to talk about. And Al-Haytham at this point is interesting. I do not see Al-Haytham, Kinich, Tignari, and Al-Haytham okay. Is worth the best in slot of Tignari, and Al-Haytham is the same one that is Nahida Furina Kuki, core of incredibly powerful high problem, with the Andro carry doing spreads with rotation. Quite frantic within what Al-Haytham fits with rotation of 18 seconds, Tignari with rotation of 12, and Furina, Nahida, and Kuki within rotation of 15, with which Tignari would fit better in the rotation teams of 15 than Al-Haytham, which has 18 number 1, Al-Haytham of 0. You can beat Tignari in Cone C2 or so. Tignari is more normal to get on the permanent with which you save yourself a pity of the promotional. That is a point in favor of Tignari, but Kinich with Cone and C2. I think today it will overcome in the same teams to Tignari and to the 4. But Kinich is also made to beat himself in burn and crack teams which do not stand out either Tignari or Al-Haytham, and will combine with Bet something that neither Tignari nor Al-Haytham does, with which my opinion is that Kinich will stay here in Gota's best carry inside the current, and I don't know how far he would get as Regot as the best carry of the game above the Gizam. And Tignari, and between Tignari and Al-Haytham also in my opinion I will leave them quite even if it were not for Kinich Al-Gizam. It would stay here in Got, so the May of the Gizam that you don't like the Gizam if it's very good. But it inflates it a lot because it's very well to Chero, and it happens like to Tartaglia, who inflates the team a lot because the opinion of the players who do not inquire on it in the playability. Goal or not looking for ceilings in Genshin Impact, as it works very well to very low resources already feel. It is amazing because players are casual in Genshin, so the theme is casual, makes it work easy, and with little you think it is very broken, but things that aren't that important. The truth is that they're limited. That's why the Gizam is inflated, but it's powerful. But at certain levels with which the Gizam would be, who got that's pretty good. But with the arrival of Kinich, and this is a prediction, If I fail then Kinish would be lower, and to the Gazam would be who got Kinish goes directly here, and to the Gazam with Tignari would be here in my opinion between the two, for all that I have explained to you by the fact of not spending wishes of the permanent that is the more powerful of Genshin Impact or promotional forgiveness would say, until Tignari could be around. Since as I say you have a potential major roof, you have the combination of 15 seconds equipment that benefits Tignari more so well. Tignari out there, and Sino depends because Sino if you play the optimal team with Baijukas or Dragons, C2 and Sino weapon with Konor. CT2 has a roof more or less, so as the constellations of Al-Ghazam do not improve much more and Sino quite so. The ceilings as well. The minimum ceilings, and we talk about Kone's C2 gun. We follow Raiden. Raiden goes this way even though Chlorind, this is very good. Because Chlorind arrived and Chlorind for many people is also a major change. Chlorind should be here objectively well. Chlorind has more roof than Raiden, but cannot play all the teams that can play Raiden. Raiden shines on the Raiden Hyper carry thing that he. Chlorind does not go badly in the Raiden National, and Raiden can adapt quite well to the pure aggravate team of Chlorind. Chlorind, no. You can play National. Chlorind can do a good performance on Chlorind per carry, but quite worse than Raiden and the current core besides of overloads and electro aggregates, and so that people try to play the real Chlorind pick is in the end a team that literally turns out to be the same core of the Sino team, but with greater roof and no synergies with the mastery unlike Sino, and still. So in this way it overcomes it if we put the best Chlorind team with Chlorind C2 weapon versus Raiden C2 gun wins Chlorind in the optimal team. From Furina C2 Nahida C2 Baiju Dragon Hunter. That Baiju will now bring him here to the conversation, but Raiden works so. Zole on more teams and has his pick with the last three with his C3. Then how are the one and the other, because well I think that for damage. Rota of a single team wins Chlorind. But as I told you in the comparison video of Raiden versus Chlorind is going to be the favorite community agent here in not for the goal of a single Sino team because of the versatility for it. Team that is to the count for the fact that he always sells a lot for his story, and because the community has caught an incredible affection for him. And finally, because Raiden is a character of the altars that there are in all the Joyovers games that you already know, that always Joyovers has a certain number of characters that are your favorites and repeats them in all games, and this generates that the character is popular. In and out of Genshin Impact, that's why Acheron, that's why Raiden May of the Honkai Impact 3rd, and that's why Chlorind might be able be powerful in a single team with roofs as it fills. But Raiden in the end, although in that particular team does not do the best performance. And objectively better team is better team lose Raiden. Everything else has it positive against Chlorind. This is opinion. But if we talk only about damage, then Chlorind. If we talk about everything else that I've explained to you, Raiden. In the earth is also of Karis here. Speaking of characters that objectively in harm are exceeded, but in popularity versatility. I'll always say things so. Let's bring to the table the KGO has come at a rooster for the algorithm we're going to bring. I don't know if I find if I don't find Noel, there's Noel. Basically Noel could go higher because he has a very powerful team with Furina. C2 and 2 Geos, plus is not the cure. The whole team already has very good synergy with Furina, but obviously he is not overtaken and by Milestone. That is an interesting synergy like Geo and their respective teams of the three. To see what their greatest potential is with which Noel could stay here next to King above, that will perhaps even go. Personally, I would lower it to myself, I believe, but many people love Noel, and by popularity you could even raise a little bit, but Navia and Milestone happens to them the following. Talking about objective ceilings of Milestone has brutal ceilings, and the ceiling goal of Milestone exceeds talking about C2 and weapon with Goruchinix Albedo, and a last character. Because either they are Lan or an amateur. Playing hyper-offensive with a C4 of Goru that cures objectively surpasses the largest ceiling of Navia, but Navia has too large numbers. And that's what people like. Navia has that she's a waifu. Navia has that they've already put her on their Kronite Geo, and deserves it at this last event of the simulation of the 4.8 previous NATLAN. And above all, Navia has that supposed versatility that nobody plays because everyone plays. Navia Kiori Furina Bennett, and above all the theme of playing Kiori Albedo, remains more comfortable in Milestone teams, and Kiori has better energy with Navia because perhaps the one that generates energy albedo is interesting, but not so much because Kiori generates less. But damage is that albedo and Kiori benefit from the attack, unlike albedo and the damage inflicted on you by Bennett and Fiorina on the roofs of the teams of Navia, with which Navia would fall like carry here quite high, and for the existence of Navia since Navia can play perfectly the same Milestone teams, i.e. Triple Geo Navia, but Milestone cannot play the Navia teams as well as. Conridens Navia stays here in our Panama Milestone, as she stays right here in that, as you realize almost everyone they are carry. If it is a bit of a shame to see, we will compare more carry than for example a Nemo, and we can bring the table to Haizu, well Haizao. Versus Xiao and Scaramouche happened to him the same thing that Noel is interesting today with Fiorina C2 Firuzan Sykes Bennett, because punching. Today, because there are Scaramouche and Xiao. Scaramouche was king until Xianyun arrived the ceilings of Xiao Xianyun C2 gun. Bennett Faruzan Chings and failing to get Fiorina C2 into some of these teams make Xiao, and I'm so sorry to beat Scaramouche. But then Xiao's a little bit more. Let's say that around here just a couple of milestones more or less like the king of the monkey and Nemo, and Scaramouche could or could be left in that even, or Scaramouche does not stop being very powerful in his best in slot that are very risky. That's why the point against which basically they are Scaramouche Faruzan 6 Fiorina C2 Bennett. But if they interrupt you in the air because they just so you are gift, and in its default Scaramouche Faruzan tanks Kazuha to damage like sub DPS and Bennett that also. It's a multi-party outfit with insane damage. Sometimes it happens that you're going in with Scaramouche, and Kazuha has already killed all the enemies. It doesn't make any sense, so Scaramouche on target roof today under Xiao. But a very powerful character. Really, because the Traveler on that one I support would say that as a support inside it could be, is that it is not used today. Maybe the Traveler's already put around here on that base and Scaramouche, maybe something like that, or I'd bring it down to a lot and a lot maybe. It hurts you to put Scaramouche out there in a butt. Let's put it in that I don't know if I put it here or here. I'm still undecided. Let's take a good look at it. Let's bring to the table the cryo element that I think has a lot to do with the cryo Ryothsli Ganyu carries. Ayaka to Ryothsli to see if I find him here, and at the table is also very good to bring Shenhe that many you ask when he return. I don't know if she's coming back, but if she's coming back, she doesn't expect to sell because the cousin Frost. They've loaded it so number one the cryo carries serve for two things, mainly permafrost that came to be at the time. One of the two best teams in the game, Permafrost, and in National with Raiden C2, and as third team Raiden Hyper Carry in Inazuma. The three best teams in the game have ordered the Permafrost in Fontaine. There has been a ratio of about 70% of abysses that you could not play clean Permafrost, and in this abyss you could not play clean Permafrost of Ayaka Ryothsli Ganyu. If you have been able to play Nouvelette's Frost Perma very well, but it is not the same with what position they have today well. That of reverse retaliations, that in fact it is noticed that NATLAN and Emily want to revive a little the compass of reverse Redditos on burn. This is either going to be goal or it's going to be very powerful. I'd say that when NATLAN gets here, how powerful is going to burn really and crackle on Walani making vaporized over burn, these melting over burn will be powerful too. Today's not Ryothsli's Frosty Perma is better than the Ryothsli's inverse retaliatory, far from the same with melted Ganyu and Ganyu. Melted over burn Ayaka is more for permafrost than for melted because your ulti-like enemies are not frozen. Go Flying and Shenhe was a very good character, especially for permafrost, for reverse retries, and for some other variant of many. Things that could be played in Genshin, but if there is no permafrost, the Shenhe spike disappears, with which Shenhe is not going to be high in the carries of permafrost. Neither in fact today the order of carries of permafrost is so Ayaka Ryothsli Ganyu in this same order, because as you get to put all the ulti in reverse with Ayaka also surpasses the teams of Ryothsli, and whereas it is a big problem of Cone and C2 to get to the damage or overcome Ayaka, and Ayaka with Chero already blows you Ryothsli without having constellations, with which more value for Ayaka than Chero works perfectly on the same teams where they could go, because maybe could go here on that base. They already gone from tier must pull to tier got, and they have gone to that base for the use of the equipment. That we can ask in Genshin Ju Iza, the inverse melts are not above Xiao with constellations or Cogna are. Here Ganyu has a point in favor, and it is that Ganyu is the best in slot as DPS of the teams of obviously. And Ganyu has some team of melting with gamming. That is also very powerful playing double cryo Venet walk. But well, the case is that cryos go like this, quote Shenhe. I believe that by the use of the Prime Frost goes directly Sino to that base, as Shen has become in many regions to be and is not used today. Shenhe has no place to look. Shivwan, another character who is. It goes to the ground, and that's certainly not ordered from left to right, as if it is ordered left to right, perhaps to carriage. This way, this talking about roof if it goes from left to right, so I can see maybe we do like this for the Geo, not if we're going to put. So above the Geo I support this is fine, and to the left to the right I think I could change things today. I would say that the dedicated supports for certain equipment are quite useful, and will continue to draw. Dedicated supports could always be considered support. Dedicated Quit and Zoma are pretty much the same. Let is better than Zoma in defensive input, and others that I think something like that is fine. And for me because they are 4-star carries. That it is have been overtaken? I think so. It is perfect. We continue. And it's a little bit less bad that it doesn't last 40 minutes. It's less difficult to go too fast. We all wait for 40 minutes of tier list. And in the end, less worth alloy is the one that commands the earth today. Which is so good. Alloy Freminate Dor is worse. Xinjiang is worse. Kiki Freminate. And there, well, travelers are worse. Amber, maybe they would go. A thing like that is if I have at least a cure inside of what fits something like that would go. Something like that would be if I boof them or so much youngin. Not because I don't know. They use normal attacks. Well, something like that would go like this. The earth would go. Now they're on the left to include it as dedicated support in above. I think Chevrus would even upload it to that Bruce inhabiting overload teams. Making one neither for overload equipment is very interesting. Not that knows is Chevrus support dedicated to the end Chevrus. What happens is that if you have interesting equipment and such but no team is best in slot of nothing Chevrus, it is true that people wanted to inflate by the Raiden hypercarry, but the reality is that if you have Kazuha Cone C2 for the extra energy you generate, or you take Kazuha to Ixifos for the extra charge that Raiden gives you and transforms it into damage, is very well the Raiden with hypercarry can be played to play Raiden hypercarry with Chevrus mandatory play checks that consumes you, let's say, as more resources. With which the Raiden hypercarry conventional remains peak, remains top, still has more roofs, remains the cannon, and the hypercarried Chevrus is simply a variant to release Kazuha that is equally very well. And the rest of Overload are very interesting. But it is not best in slot by Arlecchino, is not best in slot by Clorind, is not best in slot by any other Overload and better with Chevrus, but are not spectacularly better, nor have they entered the top 10 teams of the game. Overload. So really Chevrus stays here as extra dedicated support, bringing to the table the missing Electros. I think I'm missing none, Razor Yoe Official Smooth, and Baidu, well, yay today. I could stay around here in GOT, or at that high good. Actually now we're going to see the Razor would be me like 4 stars carry too. Although Razor carry has the Razor Fury that brought the Shiv that basically Razor Shinju B and D seeks, and here that allows us to play Hyperluma Skrepitar in the same character Razor Triple Smooth Mastery today after all the Electros. There's that they can properly explode Hyperloom or do any kind of reaction including Official and Smooth here doesn't fit very well. Well, even though you have a very good team of Hyperloom as a carry in field giving basics and consulty, so you are going to throw today get me down, and I'd say here it's important to separate the carriers from the carries to what extent Yay as a support, because it's a sub. DBS today, its best teams to play as a carry in field making basic elementary, or there. The arrival of Fiorina, you can play a Yay, Fiorina Nahida Baiju, which is the equivalent of the best team. To what extent Yay with that and his Raiden Yay, Xianlin, Chevrus, overload equipment for example, or equal variance with Yay or Yay aggravation of Yay official Nahida Baiju, are not overtaken by other aggravation equipment or other overload equipment or others. Hyperloom teams, the reality is that everything that's above Yay beats Yay, so I think it should be around here in tier. That Fischl support that is totally different. Ye is very good support of I would say here that Fischl and Beidou have fallen quite in need. General they do a different function, but their use is similar, and I think they could improve and be higher because they are used. With Novellated Beidou is activated with the Novellated loads, and the two have perhaps seen a little more played by the teams both of FA. Aggravate, although the Algizam teams and such are not played with them, as the equipment of Overload of Shebrangios Infanted is also new space, and as supports with min. I would say that I would tell the truth that I wouldn't say just I right. Novellated is that being so good with Novellated is because of how good it is Novellated, but Novellated plays with Nahida Kuki is Jesus Christ Novellated playing it with Nilu a team of Bloom and Jugas Novellated Nilu Nahida Baiju, and is Jesus Christ and is not dependent on Beidou and Fischl, so I would say that today Fischl and Beidou are perhaps below Ye above. Yai for being stands maybe above Ayaka even and Scaramouche there in this land, of stands next to the Endro Traveler maybe. If you don't have many inside the Endro Traveler, it's very powerful in Nahida's place on all the teams, so we're left. Little Layla is just a shield, but for the fact of being a shield I would put it in nothing, because it still enables you some permafrost. Noivilet free to play or as good Scaramouche shield, in fact Layla is the second best shield after the game with Witch. I think he deserves to be on top of it. Maybe he'll remove it from inside for bloom equipment for aggravation equipment. We need to see the characters of Mualani. I think I'll put it in GOT because it's kind of a gamine but 5. Stars that Chero does his job and vaporizing his normal attacks, but his beat rhythm like the one of gamine maybe. It's even slower, so maybe Mualani when he goes out to the Archon is placed the same here as Quinich. I don't know, I'm not sure. Mualani, I think. That I'm not going to say because it can be very good, very bad. And the margin of better or worse is quite different. I have with Quinich Tartaglia. I'm not seeing him anywhere because there's no cake. I don't see him here. Tartaglia and High Tartaglia. And they're not as powerful as they are. What's so powerful about them is being able to play Kazuhaxi's international team, but if you put him in, Mualani herself will do more damage to the team than to play Tartaglia and High. If you put a Xingqiu, you have a national that gets off all the wings of the abyss. If you put Yellen in, you have another blessed Jesus Christ national on Earth. And you put a Raiden in it like you have a rare but very powerful overload equipment that still lowers all the wings with which the power Tartaglia and High are and tall are Kazuhaxi and Glenn Bennett. Uday puts that into any combination of general equipment and busts any room without need. Tartaglia and High Reality Ayato happens to him. Tartaglia happens to him the same thing that I explained to you of Algaiza surprises the people very casual to 0 because to no investment. It generates a very good results. And this is a point very in favor of the characters. The reality is that today Tartaglia and High could be here in that base or command the high ground because if we talk about roofs. Not if also with his team maybe you no longer become a milestone and Dizian for the amount of supports that they have put them, but the fair thing would be put them here above Escaramouche and above the Primafrost that are no longer used. Do not allow you to use if the Primafrost are used. Hayaka, I will pass directly here for anyone who likes Hayaka who knows, but if Tartaglia and High, I think it is fair to put them. Here I would personally put Ayato above Tartaglia for the fact that I could play that all-heat play Permafrost and so on me. The fact that Ayatos is more comfortable to play Hyperlim teams and so on, because it leaves you a source of Hydro better than Tartaglia, and finally Ayato is to let press a button and do, and Tartaglia you must know the combo of no. 2 normal loaded, and when toss and not toss the ulti equal throw a loaded with bows to leave the rip time of the enemies, so Ayato above Tartaglia by the simplicity and the similarity of his teams, and what remains little, let us now talk about the defensive supports. That would be basically because this tier not of Kokomi Zhongli Baiju Yin, and something else around here that I would be missing. As a defensive support not, I think the powerful are them and maybe get Charlotte in and save the conversation to finish them all. Kokomi in this order. I believe that to this day by the fact that Baiju improved much for the best in slot of Chlorine Baiju is used. I love with Novellated this around here. Baiju combines very well with Urina for the loads. Baiju combines very well and will combine very well with the NATLAN characters because you want to play burn teams and you want to repeat in NATLAN with which for general burn teams. And to repeat that they will be played with Kinnish and NATLAN characters. It is possible that Baiju improves with which first in this order, Baiju Kokomi, and then Yin Charlotte and Barbara Yin will go down on because there is Xian Jun, which is the same but 1,000 times better. Table a number of meaningless equipment and activates you better the loads of Furina. Both are very good to activate loads of Furina. But this lady here scales with attack which combinations of teams from Furina, Xian Jun, Bennett. That Bennett Buffando. Xian Jun makes it a single tick to put all the loads of Furina mainly in the teams of Gaman or in the teams of Xiao. Makes it literally play the role of Yin in every way. The only thing maybe Xian Jun doesn't have is to generate particles like generates 5 particles with his elemental equals. You have the cone that in Yin directly disappears, does nothing Yin that. Don't make Xian Jun much better. I'll put it around here by the height of Zhenjie, then Barbarous and Charlotte too. I'll bring her by. I don't think you're going to get into the Dragon Hunter. Sorry. He's not going to put the green shadow in you, but he's going to put the hunter in you. Thirst for instructor that maybe also does not bad so barbarian around here at the height of Digiato Mainashi because it is quite interesting. Wouldn't be me even though Kokomi exists, and if you Juan and do a similar job if I'm sorry, but now you're going to me for Kokomi is leaving. To go to me as support around here, and finally Charlotte for Novellete's Permaphoros is interesting. Charlotte as a killer. General Cryo is the best cryo gunner above Diona. And so we can bring the conversation to Diona, with which Diona today. I'm so sorry, but it would be up here to me. Well, maybe Diona could be above the island 100% with which it's going to go down. Above the island is quite useful indeed. I would put it right here with Zoma, and say in Charlotte for the absurd gilling that it's got where you work most in permafrost, but out of permafrost doesn't do much more with which Charlotte around hereby. On top of Jean maybe cause he still cures a lot, he doesn't put green shadow not Charlotte down here under Zoma. On top of Dione defensive supports raised by Zukomi. And they are well. I personally do not consider so important the supports. Defensive, but many people in the community, taking into account the theme of Tartaglia, and to whom they are also, that I have explained you greater result and more convenience to play. I think the issue of not killing you survival, and above all the fact that each region increases a strong peak of difficulty will make these 3 characters quite useful, with which here I will do an exercise of self-critical reflection with the self-critical community with me, and reflection with the community, and I think I will put the defensive supports here because they literally save a lot of players and make most of themselves play teams. Comfortable and in fact going to day is best in slot Chlorin, best in slot Sinnoh. Equipment is a super strong combination. With this, gentleman will go to combine very well with the C2 of Nahida and Furina, which are best C2 of game, and as I say, it will help and be pretty good, I think, NATLAN, because you want to play burn teams and crack. Sometimes in burn you can play Bininit, and so on, but several crackling teams will surely prefer to play Baiju to survive, so this way the characters support me. In my opinion, personally, the literal defensive supports the 3 pillars of Genshin impact survival. I would put them more. I personally would maybe put them in that. But well, let's exercise here in self-criticism and put them higher than anything else. 4-star carries that would put them here because Jamfei quite interesting as 4-star carry. But it's Pyro, and this 4-star carry with which Jamfei has read much his post. There are no more 4-star carries, well, yes me and I don't lie. To see pretty bad carry because that me and me are already going to put KB here as dedicated support. But being a carry below I put a carry Pyro around here too. These 3 carry pretty Fs today in Genshin. Now we're talking about not even lining to buy. So let's talk about these carries that are 5 stars carries, but to this day their tier would almost be 4 stars. I'm going to put them down here below that Eula. I'm not sure the 3 Pyro carries are actually Yoimiya below Lini. Clayta, 2 hasn't literally played anyone for the defense drop and the combination with Furina C2 Eula with her. Best team, I think, would put it here below the 4-star carries just as Eula has improved with Furina C2 boot. Does not reach the height, for example, of a Scaramouche, or does not even reach the height of Permafrost that can no longer be played would like put it here below the tier of carries supports of the 4-star supports over maybe itself from the other supports that are already in disuse. And let's talk about these 3 carries that looks interesting. The conversation me and me because uniting and multiplying what you want from me and not from Klee Stupor Line made 1 C2. mean, I'm already very sorry, but And I know already now, definitely yes. And after the Infante will arrive, come on, and I'll let you know. And the existence of Jutao. Jutao benefits much more than any other character from the combination of double hydro by consonants and life and C2 from Mat. Furina, more dearest Yelan, me already today, goes to the well to the height of Eula more or less. And now the eternal debate Klee. Has appeared a great stream of people with line, and because it has been impressed by an interesting burst and numbers more or less. The combination of a key team that today is the best in slot of Alekino, of Bennett, Kazuha, Furina line, but as I say, no one remembers the C2 click that lowers the defense of the enemies by 23%. That C2 is equivalent almost to the C2 of Nahida you can find if you combine the green shadow with Bennett's Bufo with the damage Furina has and taking into account the same line team where it lines and tries to vaporize, but if Kazuha imbued herself with Pyro, you screwed up the rotation, and yet Clay gets so many strokes from Pyro that the one that vaporizes is Furina. With all the Bufos, the click team continues to surpass the line equipment and line up, and they've inflated it, so these around here Klee doesn't really use the truth click. The reality 2 click is that popularity. As I talked about Raiden Chlorinian and so on is totally null popularity. Click popularity, if we talk about popularity click, you could go straight to me in line, and there has been a group of people who wanted to put a little push and look at the line is interesting. So if we look at the additional popularity factor, that is also interesting for the characters. Line would go this way by. Under the skirmish equipment at its optimal point is to say, it's not bad at all, and click would go up me, but if we talked about the objective damage of the character thing that has happened with Navia Ito, since it and Navia target damage is better, but Navia is up, and the same with Raiden's Clorin is up. This would be fair lion over here and click over here, but if we talk about popularity, if we talk about target damage, click is above line, but I think taking into account that use factor and popularity, we're going to lead. So I think that's really what everyone would think, click is above line and objectively speaking, but just like that it with Navia and it is lower, as well as Clorin of with Raiden, and Raiden is higher. And we are missing nothing already, and in the end it's going to last 40 minutes. The Mona Earth was best in slot permafrost, but they've nerfed it. The Mona permafrost was very good on other teams, a second best variant of Raiden hyper carry. If you didn't have Sarah chicks, you wore Cute Hunter. Dragons in the stall of Sarah and Mona made a wreck too, and so on, but Cute today has fallen into terrible disuse because already there are no combinations of nuke with monkey equipment, and everything that makes Mona makes it much better Furina, so Mona will stay for. Here a little above I may leave under Jean, as the heating is more important to today's Cute is going to stay here. Kaya to 4 stars sub DPS cryo. In fact, this is interesting because to also Rosaria Kaya, Rosaria would put it around here. Next to Ganyu, as are interesting, the 2 rotation of 15 Rosaria generates more energy than Ganyu can carry Fabonius and activates it. Alright, and it gives you a Bufo probability to the team Ganyu. What gives is bonus damage raise the team, and a damage like a 50-60%. Higher than that of Rosaria as sub DPS, with which they do a day of a super similar role. Rosaria is the Ganyu free to play as sub DPS. Does not make loaded or melt like Ganyu, but Rosaria would fall here, and Kaya is a worse Rosaria the truth and good Rosaria for her. For reverse melts also very good, so Rosaria, I think it will be used more than Shenhe by the fact of being battery of the team and the whole story, and Kaya, I would fall directly, put it directly on me, maybe over here as support above. The 4-star carries because you can use more than Kanda are scripted, and such that more the Lord of the Night carry Pyro objectively. DeLuca Downs, just as it leaves Downs, surpasses Yomiya's teams against an enemy with which, if we count 2 Diluc in teams of descendings with Shenhe, for would be around very powerful Diluc in descendings, but quite short indeed. No, I'd put it over maybe and put it over Permafrost below the good Eins, not if we counted Furina C2 Shenhe as C2 and Deal go down to the Eins, and today in fact, Diluc outstrips the Enanas, and so much hype that DSC6 Diluc outstrips in damage. So I think Diluc would fall here if we talked about objectivity, if we talked about community, because Diluc. Maybe I'd fall around here more or less, or even so it's more, for example, that you can't play Downs as well as a Diluc by the subject of the controllable and the climbing, so That's where Ventolin, where I would put the Ventolin to, is not used today. It's because they are young. There are no people who go to Venti and get aggressive on social networks. The reality is that Venti doesn't do much more. That it's not putting Green Shadow together very badly, literally don't count on it coming together because it doesn't come together in imaginary theater. Maybe there are small enemy rooms, and yes, this deal that generates a lot of energy to the team, but Kazuha equals with a C-pose or with a cone that has 2 elementals generates a lot of energy and sacrosanct with the 3 elementals of sacrifice the same, so Venti, I am very sorry, I would raise perhaps to the height of the dedicated supports. And I don't know if even below the dedicated supports, because at least the KB Bloom is very powerful, and Mika is used as you see. It has slot Eula is used to place Eula the teams of Dio Kongoro, not with Navia. But if with Milestone Faruzan is used with Shao, and with Escaramusara is used with Raiden Hyper, carry with the equipment that is used pretty in overloads it is used, but Venti is not good for much, and last, but not least it is exploration. In fact, Scoundrel would put it today by. Here at the height of the IA, and with what I know of Scoundrel is Yori and Albedo, it would be interesting to talk to them. I will put the truth to the power. Because Albedo doesn't have as much ceiling damage as Kiori with Constellations, but it generates a lot of energy for the team and 1,000 times more comfort. But Kiori dolls have a point in favor, and it is that if you have Kiori Cone dolls do not disappear. But however, Albedo's flower counts as a structure and you can break it well. I think he can't break your dolls, so the 2 of them are gonna go over here on that Bass. Maybe over here on Karis because they're standers. And they are good for Navia, and for Milestone what happens that you do not play outside of Navia and Milestone. And that would also subtract enough points from the points. Maybe not to play below the carries above the Permafrost and below the carries of So Diluc, because if they look Furina. If we have something like that, I'm not sure maybe sport is better than Diluc and better than Line and underneath Scaramouche, who likes Scaramouche, but there would be, I don't know, I think by use they would vary a lot, as supports would be about at this point like that. Bass I'm not quite sure by. Above the Permafrost safe because their variant is use is very small, and very down. I would put them here for use and so on by. Not to be popular if we take into account the stands and so on. Maybe I'd put them over here and Sayu and Fisher, but well, the same problem as other Sayu characters, worse than Xian Yun, and worse than Jin today, because Jin. You activate Furina's carries much better, with which Sayu would put it as I live up to Barbarous, but they're worse than Jin and Xian. You know that, go call me Collie something similar. Really, Collie would put it in me. I think Collie would put it in nothing. Because for Bloom teams or 15 rotation teams, even if I only have, I think it's 9 seconds, or I think it's up to 12. I don't know if it's 9, I don't think it's just 9 seconds in total application inside, which is very little because it has 15 seconds of CD there. Case of Collie is that in its sub DPS inside incomplete for testing and free, with what is below the Traveler inside is. Under Emily, when Emily comes out a lot, plus she's under Inajida, is down to Baiju today because... Poorer than Coley could be considered very good for being support, but would no longer be at the height of the Traveler inside. I'm sure if you put it here to Park 20, I think here's the here's. The call I point to Park 20 above me and my already Yule. And so on, and we've got Yao Yao Linnet, and it's neither worth it nor the damage that the Bloom teams can achieve the combination. With Emily, who will improve her by playing with a lot of Hydro characters, included Nouvelette, raises her utilization a lot. So I can't even stand it if I'd put it on that high over here, especially because if it's actually used, maybe I don't know if he... Under the defensive supports even here and that, but objectively, the equipment of neither with Nahida C2 down there is not lowered. The events with Nahida C2, but remember that Nahida C2 makes 1 in 5 blooms jump critical. And you see a 60,000, 70,000 blooms I'm not sure what to do with. The theme is that it's support, and it's equivalent to Chevreuse, but more powerful. I don't know if to put it. Above below the carries inside that are here, or Sino. What happens that Quinnage already put it here because it can here I'm not sure what to do with, or of course I would put it yes or yes below defensive supports, considering I don't think it's even right here. I don't think it's okay. The Bloom teams and the comfort and theme that they have been able to play more or less cleanly. In
Very
all the
well
abysses
above the
I
carries
think in
it is.
Mualani, I have already told you no risk, because Mualani can be here next to Gamine, or improve too. Gamine even, or they're putting some nerfs in the beta, and it could go like here, but if Mualani comes out like beta would be here literally and Za'ara, and we bring it down to that so that it doesn't look like that either. There is so much agglomeration of characters, and now this isn't the final thing I'm going to see what would change, because we're going to see the tier list of going down top alloy Dori Chingan travelers. That they are not the Dendro Amber Freminate Kiki Yungin. And if it is cool already or already today, Linnet, I was missing to see already, or it happens to him what I've told you. To other characters below Bayu, because he loses enough in that he wouldn't put it on the bottom if he would put it as a giller and also as a giller. Inside maybe above, leaving above Mona today, maybe below Jean. Actually here would already put by. Under Jean above Cute and Linnet is very good character support for free to play because it is an anemo that puts you in shade. Green that generates many particles to the equipment, and that gives a bufo of attacks, i.e. it is like a triangle so to say between Linnet, but as I already know Sucrose Kazuha Xian Young. As another support anemo and other Linnet really if it is useful, but it is. Has moved because it is not as useful as a Kazuha in any account. And you usually play, if you play two anemos in an account on a team of the Abyss Kazuha and in another team Xian Young, then Linnet is very good, but has moved quite then by use. I think Linnet would fall as a Nemo support here in that it's still pretty good. I'd say maybe at the height between school and 20 I'd put it by. Under the dedicated Linnet supports is interesting, very strong. See we continue Ningguan below. Smooth would put Smooth above. Of Xian Young despite the inverse retidos, because equal instead of Xian Young play Rosarius played Anju is played Grizzly is played Xian Young smoother here. If I would already put Candace for the Candace Oasis is a very good team more and useful than Young. That's why Hedges that got pretty displaced isn't bad. Be it's powerful but Noel over here above Hedges. This gentleman with a 100 Young fake Mocha Repiro Thunder. Fury support healer support Kaya healer over here and clear my acceptance. The truth is that it's not the truth after seeing all this, and for Klee's damage, even if Klee is not used, if I believe that I'll leave her at least here for her C2, and for the least good above the permafrost, and that makes us now compete, we'll put her here, for example, here good click competing with the inverse retries of Hayaka Grizzly in case they can be used, or Bufine. Natlan could beat the teams with his C2 Pure and C2 Kazoji to C2 by Master Bufo, and if in fact, not in fact, it is that. If we count that team, it's gonna blow all this up, it's gonna burst to limb. Maybe the downers against one of the enemies. D-Loop doesn't blow it up, maybe the truth is. But I think we're going to stick around here, we're going to follow the Ilha Scoundrel for exploration. It will be very strong, with which I would climb quite catching in aggravation. I will raise it here to the height of me and mine Eula above and mine and Eula I think catching aggravate you, I'm going to climb Diona Charlotte. Zoma leaves Cute already, or I think all this is okay. The poor Xing who's come down pretty much under Yin, I believe, and underneath her Eula me and Mia catching well Ko Linetten. Very interesting, as stands very well above here. 20 would put it further down, is that it is not used, dedicated but well there is sounding here in Nemo such and such. It is worth that Rosaria yay, although many people do not. Pei likes it very much is no longer so powerful, because all the electros above make their function much better and everything is from the rival of Florida and you. That's carried worse than Grayly and Ayaka, but has its function of support for reverse retreats. Grayly Ayaka is better than Grayly in all respects, but don't play right now and play permafrost yo albedo Shori. Shori supports with more roof than Albedo, but Albedo more support with utilities by though. On top of Shori, so at the same time I don't know what I can put them Liney Dialog reads and click with the team click. 2 Furina C2 Kazuha, CT2. VNC6 is a nonsense, maybe it would be above the Escaramuche Tartaugia Iato Escaramuche equipment equal support. Here well milestone as carry Navia by itself to the 3 carries that play Hyperbloom cores that have spectacularly powerful ceilings. But then we have more characters that by popularity do also amazing things. Nilu around here are Gly with Camila would come down here. To that, the truth by 2 is the one that would leave Ingot as the best giller next to being a better giller by 2 second Navia for the fact that Geo wouldn't put it under Baiju Chlorine. Well, Emily, well, I think I'm going to put it here next to Chlorine to the 2, which happens to clear Sino ceilings on their good Sino ceilings, actually surpassed by Chlorine. So I think something like that, very much. I think Emily's going to be here. I think Emily's going to be very careful here. I'm being careful. I'd say it's going to go to more pool in the tier next to Yellen for now. This is very low, but above Sucrose Kinich as Kari, come on. To be conservative, and I'll put it here next to Navia below Baiju, but if really Kinich with C2 can beat the Haythamandan. Tignari Kinich is going to leave here as one of the best features of the whole game, but I'll be conservative, I'll put him here, Jutao Gamon. I think Jutao, I'm going to put her down, and I'm going to put her here next to Kinich and Navia. This support cares the theme of playing the theme that can be played with the combination of Nahida Furina, C2, and Baiju Dragon Hunter, is a nonsense for Chlorinde, especially Chlorinde. C2 or C3. In this tier does not enter, but C2 C3 because it compares with a written C3 Gammon and Wolani, here indisputably, and does not climb to Gamine. To more pool then, because it is a Kari, say I, and already Arlecchino, and it overcomes it. But if it did not exist, Arlecchino Gaman around would be more well surprise and improve, or Moalani may make Xianglan, Jinchu Yellen Kuki Arlecchino comes. Here Xiangyun better than Arlecchino, yes. Because support, maybe we could do so. Arlecchino is very powerful, and Nubilet with facilities. The game, Bennett Kazuha. Maybe Bennett better than Kazuha, not by the subject of the limitations of and others. Furina, this is the current tier list of all Genshin Impact here, is a second to see if I can fit it well, and you see it completed. Something like that good, I'm missing the landed. But well, here I give a couple of scrolls for you to see. This is my current tier list of all Genshin Impact. Those who have reached the end, put Kinich and Moalani for the algorithm in the comments. Leave me in the comments. Which Natal character makes us more excited to know who has come to the end and who are the real non-mini-minis of the community, and always leave me with respect and education that this kind of videos always bring a lot of, and try to ignore. Eliminate all that so that the community is healthy and that you come here to enjoy and have fun, as it really should be to entertain creating content. So I read to you, and what do you think better, that you make worse what you would change, and why? Because Alloy in Genshin Impact's best character. Little more thank you, very careful to have very good day, don't be.
Okay.
And Mini explodes all that is.